World of Warcraft has always been famous for a good combat, a lot of instance content, and great bosses. But lately, they've been trying to go for a few more things. Specifically, open world content, open world bosses that have a bit of a preamble in order to get into them. A few events, City Castle, a Dragonbane Keep, all this tree and do different mechanics in Superbloom, and etc, etc. And of course, cook some soup on Community Feast. But are these events good? Are they even close to the meta events, open world events that Guild Wars 2 has and they have been the best at for the entirety of the past 10 years? Let's talk about it. Subscribe to the channel for more content of this. Go to my coffee, want to support me? Let's get into it. As we have talked before, WoW is trying to do some new world events. We have a lot of them, and they all work in more or less the same way. They happen every 2 hours. You have to do a few pre-events in order to spawn a big boss, and then you kill the boss. And it works very similar to what you have in something like Guild Wars 2, which is essentially the same thing. Every 2 hours there's an event, and you're gonna have to, everyone's gonna have to go together, just like you're seeing right here in WoW, to do the events and then kill a boss at the end. It's very epic. There's a lot of things going on, and it feels very cool that you actually can play with this amount of people. It feels in some ways, at least in Guild Wars 2, like a 50-man raid. You can see it right here. For example, we're actually fighting a huge dragon with 50 people each, trying to do the mechanics, in this case, trying to hide from the big wave of attack that the dragon is gonna attack us with very soon. We're gonna hide behind these little pillars, and we're gonna have to keep going. And of course, afterwards, you're gonna have to do more stuff, kill the boss, break the bar with CC in order for the boss to not kill us. The boss also, you can see that he's actually swapping and trying to attack us from one side to the other, and so on and so on. It's very epic. It's very fun. It's one of the big, essentially one of the biggest patches of content in Guild Wars 2. And it's one of the most important parts of Guild Wars 2, the bread and butter in terms of endgame content of it, other than raids, strikes, dungeons, blah, blah, blah. But even though WoW is actually trying to do the same thing, it doesn't seem like it's working very well. Overall, even though these events are kind of fun, you have some pre-events like, siege this castle, siege this Dragonbane Keep, destroy some of the weapons that this enemy faction has. The bosses just instantly die, just like that. It just instantly die. I couldn't even tag it when we did this, actually. The pre-events are not really that fun, and it's not very popular because of the rewards not being as good. Because of this, I want to go through every one of these events in WoW and see what are the problems with it, what can they do better so they can, 1, fix them, and 2, make the next ones that come out, for example, the War Within, a bit more fun. Starting with Dragonbane Keep, even though it's very, very impressive visually, at the start you just end up killing some, you just have to kill some enemies that don't really do anything and destroy some of the weapons that the Dragonbane Keep people have. The problem with this is that because of how WoW ends up working, you have to sit there, click on the weapon, wait for the cast time to happen, and it's just not fun, right? If it was like, hey, you click on it and you start and you just keep moving, you attack stuff or whatever, it feels way more dynamic, it feels more interesting, and it, especially because of the role play that, you're actually sieging the keep, and it will feel more meaningful and fun. Of course, also the entire meta not being scaled very well for, 1, the power that we have already, and the amount of people that it has, making the boss instantly just explode, not do anything, makes it not very fun. Also, being not that rewarding, and the only reason why you do it is because of the weeklies, once a week, makes it very not interesting either. Now, for a good one that is actually fun, we're gonna go for Community Feast. Community Feast is pretty fun, even though you have to wait a long time for it to start. Following the instructions of the chef telling you, hey, go get this ingredient for you and come back to me and give it to me. You're saying, yes, chef, and everyone's saying, yes, chef, at the same time. It's pretty fun. You, of course, also, in the meantime, after you're already done with your task, being able to kill the fish that are coming to the Community Feast and trying to steal it from us is also very fun. Grabbing that pieces of meat and throwing it is all very, very, very dynamic. Even though you know that you're really not doing a lot and you're not really progressing the event too much, it just ends up being fun. And at the end of the day, you're really doing this for the weekly and the actual objective of the quest. So as long as you actually do 5 instructions, you're kind of done, which gives you a good amount of not only instructions, but a goal to achieve while you're doing the event. The fastest you do your instructions, the fastest you got your reward, and you can leave. Or you can stay for a little bit more fun and get the soup at the end. So overall, it's actually pretty cool, and it gives you good rewards as you have the possibility of getting an item that is very, very sought after and very, very expensive. So overall, pretty good event. Honestly, every event in World of Warcraft right now should be exactly like this. I don't know, well, the next ones we're going to talk about are so bad when they have done something so good like this. Now let's talk about the Grand Hunts. Grand Hunts could be very, very good. Essentially they are, hey, go to this place, kill this beast, defend this beast, rescue this fauna or whatever, and you're gonna go around every different part of the map by doing this. In theory it sounds fun, but most of these activities are not really that fun. They just feel like quests. They don't feel like anything innovative. You have to, same problem that WoW always has. You have to sit there and do a cast bar in order to interact with the game. And there's just not enough movement, not enough exciting things. Everything also dies insanely fast. And you end up just kind of being like, okay, I got to one place, I killed one mob, everything is done already because everyone is here. I guess I'm going to the next spot. And it just doesn't feel very good. The bosses at the end also don't feel very good. And ends up being very like, oh, I guess we did this for this boss at the end, and it didn't really do anything. It's kind of just boring. Not good. It has a lot of potential to it, but they obviously didn't really think about it too well. Next one, we have one of the, honestly, the worst ones. Storm's Fury. This event is absolutely horrible. I absolutely hate it. What you have to do is just sit in 4 specific spots, just like those portals that you have right there. And you're going to have to just sit there and defend it over and over again until the whole bar is done. That's all you have to do. And at the end, there's going to be a boss. That is honestly not that interesting. It's just a big golem that does a few mechanics in the floor that you just have to evade. And that's it. It's not really exciting. It doesn't die too fast, which is nice, but it ends up feeling like a slog anyways because the mechanics are not really engaging. It's not epic. You're not moving around. You're sitting there pressing the same buttons over and over again. I really don't like it, and I think, honestly, it's just all pretty bad. The boss is bad. The pre-event is bad. It's not epic. It sucks. Now, we also have the Superbloom. This one is a mixed bag. It has a lot of cool ideas, but they're horribly executed in my opinion. It has literal roguelike elements when the more you actually play the game and the more you actually collect these little flowers, the more effects you're gonna be able to get. You're gonna be able to jump like you're going to be able to get Moonfire as a little owl. You're going to be able to jump upwards and start shooting at them to enemies. You're going to be able to heal yourself more, have more. You're going to be able to choose in between different abilities, which is super, super cool. And in some ways actually makes you be able to want to do more of the event in order to get that sprouting Dream Trove, that bloom, to get better rewards. The problem is that even though that is the case, most of the time you don't really care about the reward. Unless you're really trying to farm for a very, very specific reward, a very specific cosmetic, most people are not gonna care to actually get the bloom to that level, and you're gonna end up feeling like you're just doing it by yourself, which is very, very disappointing. If it would actually give you more gold or some other stuff like this, I think it would be way better, but because it doesn't, it ends up being very boring. It also takes so much time, and it's just an escort. There's nothing you can do to make it faster. Maybe if you make it a bit different, like the more bloom you actually get, the faster the escort moves, but it doesn't work that way. You end up just waiting over 20 minutes or 50 minutes to actually just get to the boss at the end. It's just not very fun. The boss is not very fun either. It just kind of dies. It doesn't really do anything. It's a huge blob of 50 people that are just exploding on the boss as well, and you can't see anything. And all the activities are kind of boring as well. Collect some flowers, go around picking up certain energy in the floor, pick up an entangled mess and just kind of pull it out. What? That's not fun, right? It's just not, right? It'd be a bit different if, it actually gave a consequence to the actual meta, to the actual event, but it doesn't really feel like it. And it ends up being very, very, very boring. So overall, pretty bad. Cool ideas, but not fun at all. Now, Research Under Fire. This one is actually pretty fun. There's a good amount of different events. You're killing a lot of enemies. There's a little bit of cool pre-events, like, hey, collect some gears, and all of them actually feel like you are progressing through an event. The faster you do them, the faster the meta ends, the event ends. So you're actually feeling very much like, oh, I want to do this. I want to keep blasting as fast as I can to get done with this event and, well, go do something else. And that doesn't mean that this is not fun, but it seems like it has a purpose. Of course, I think some of the same problems we have seen before in events appear again. Like, hey, where you're collecting the gear, you have the gears are on the floor, and bring them back to the NPC. You have to sit there, unmounted, pick it up, and then go back. It's kind of annoying, right? But it does feel like the faster you go, the better. And also you end up getting more rewards the more you do this, and also more events. The more events you do, you know, if you finish one, the next one's going to come out. If you finish that one, another one is going to come out until you get the 12 and the max level. And then a boss spawns. The boss is not really interesting, I don't think. It just kind of dies as well. But it's a bit, you know, I don't know. It ends up being a bit more interesting, I think. You know, look at that. You know, he has a little attack that you want to move out of, and he starts targeting you. It's a bit more interesting. I'm pretty sure that right now it must be very, very power crept to hell, and you just end up one-shotting it. But at least when it launched, it seemed like it was pretty fun. Overall, this is probably my favorite one of them all with Community Feast. And I think they need to pick stuff from this. They need to find a way to make this one more epic, a bit more interesting, maybe a bit longer, and you can actually get some good world events in here. For the last one, the Big Dig. We actually have some interesting mechanics here as well. An interesting event. It has some good ideas. You end up having to go around doing different tasks in order to get some information out of this Big Dig site. There's going to be enemies you're going to have to kill. You're going to have to do little events like, hey, shovel out some stuff, some things out of the ground to get more research points, right? And get those pages collected. At the top, you can see there. So you can get some pages collected to make the overall points of the event better, so you can get better rewards. It ends up feeling a little bit like the other ones, like Superbloom, I guess, a little bit. But because it's not an escort and you are the one doing everything, and you know that it's going to take this amount of time, it feels a bit better. It still doesn't feel good because you have a timer for it. You're going to just end up having to wait and wait. But because there's a good amount of different type of events, different activities you're going to be doing, it feels a bit better. I think, honestly, this one would be way better if you actually were able to progress faster and you didn't see your timer right there, just being like, hey, I guess I have to wait. And then once you're done, you have to excavate here and just kind of AFK there until the next part comes, which ends up being a bit boring, but it's not the worst thing ever. There's a good amount of different things, and the fact that this is the last one they actually have done gives me a little bit of hope that they're actually learning from their mistakes, and this War Within expansion will have very good world events. Now, there is a few more things that this expansion has given us, like Dream Surges, like the Firak Assaults, and etc. But these things don't really seem like world events. It seems like just quest lines that you have in different maps. They have a little bit of world event to them, but honestly, they don't really do that much. It ends up just being, hey, kill these enemies by yourself, and you'll be able to get your reward, or go through these mini bosses, essentially rares, over and over again, like we have done through the Sin's Mist of Pandaria, and get the same game loop we have seen before. So I would not really compare them to the world events that we have in Guild Wars 2, but these ones are okay. They're the same type of gameplay we have seen since Timeless Isle, but hey, what are you gonna do? They're okay, but not really a lot to say about them. Overall, what is the verdict? I think overall the bosses are not very engaging. They don't really have a lot of mechanics that, you know, are fun for doing in 50-man groups. Like, hey, stack here, stack there. The boss moved, so let's go get it, right? You can do a lot of things with this, like drown flying, for example, and nothing was actually used for them. They're very, very underdeveloped, and I think if they did that, if they actually developed it a bit better, it'd be way more fun. Scaling is completely fucked. The bosses instantly die, and they can't do anything. Even if they wouldn't do anything in the first place, it's easily leechable. You can just attack once and getting most of the reward anyways, so there's no point to actually try. There's a lot of downtime in between steps, and there's nothing you can actually do to make it a bit faster and engaging. And most of the time, the events in between don't really lead into each other. It's just kind of like, oh, do this one thing because X reason, do this other thing because of X reason, and I guess eventually the boss will so on, haha. It just ends up not being very fun. And it really makes me sad because WoW is a very good game. It has a lot of development into it. The developers have a good idea of how to do very fun stuff, and they just didn't do that in these events. I was very excited for Dragonfly because of this, and unless they actually go and put some effort into it, I don't think they're going to be able to compete with something like Guild Wars 2 has. And I'm gonna make, well, I made a very, very long time ago a video about metas. So if you're interested in World Events in Guild Wars 2 and how cool they are and how they compare to this game in specifically, definitely go check that video. And maybe I'll do another one because that was a very old video. Regardless, it'll be in the description down below. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Tell me what you guys think and see you guys around. Love you all. Bye. Bye.